Man, I'm just chilling at the crib, 420 blazing it. My life for your life, man, I wouldn't trade it. What's up, my dudes? Listen, Milestone, I've been easy on you for the past couple Supercross games, but I'm about to hit you with that work, boy. We all know that you gotta come to the Spency boy for the actual truth about these Supercross games. I tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. There's a lot of guys out there, they just live in a positive fairy tale land of, Milestone's doing nothing wrong. Just go buy all of the Milestone games. We're never really going to tell you not to buy any of them, Shit cracks me up, bro. Luckily, a lot of you guys have caught on to what Milestone has been doing. So, I've been saying it since back when, before it was even cool to say it, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, okay, let's get right to it with Supercross 66666. So, number one thing, do not buy this game. I repeat, don't buy this game. If you have ever played any other Supercross game, there's literally no point. There's no point. Okay? So that's the first thing right there. Now, let's just dive right into the physics, because that's always the big thing. How's the gameplay? Is it skill gapped? How does it compare to Supercross 3 or Supercross 5 or whatever? By the way, be sure and go follow me up on Instagram and Twitter at Spencer Turley, no spaces and no capital letters. And if you want to get in my Discord, all you got to do is DM me on Instagram and just let me know you want to get in the Discord, and I'll get you in there, bro. Okay? Be sure you got all notification bells hit for the channel. We're about to start popping off, bro. So, with the physics, I've got a few critical issues with this game, gameplay-wise, that I feel like basically in a nutshell ruins the entire game. Okay? So, number one, this gameplay is very slow. It's very, how else can I put it? Basically, it's made for everybody. It's one of the most simplistic, basic Supercross games I have ever played before. It's kind of reminiscent to the first Supercross game, but like a lot slower of gameplay. Like you feel like you're going slower on the bike, even when you're wide open. You feel like, there's not a whole lot happening very fast. It's like definitely that sort of feeling like a 2-year-old and a 95-year-old could play this game just as good as anybody else could. Okay, it's definitely got that sort of effect to it. Very beginner friendly. Very much made for absolutely everybody. Okay? But, I don't really think this gameplay is all that much better than Supercross 5. I really don't. There may be some elements that are slightly better, but, as a whole, you're not going to be blown away by this gameplay. A big problem with the jumps in this game, this is major right here, major thing to understand, okay? It's like somebody came through and rolled off all of the jump faces. And I'm not talking compared to a reflex track or something like that. I'm talking even just compared to the other Supercross games. Even just compared to that, it feels like somebody has came through here and smoothed off all of the jump faces. You don't jump anywhere near as high up in the air as you feel like you should be. You don't have that bouncing up in the air like when you're hucking a triple out of a corner or you're seat bouncing. There's just not a whole lot of that kind of feeling at all. It's like the jumps have been sort of elongated, but they're rolled off. The jump faces are rolled off. There's a bunch of finish line jumps that don't even feel like finish line jumps in this game because you're barely even coming off of the ground. It's almost to that point where it's getting into that range of why would you ever even whip the bike because you're barely even, boosting up in the air when you come off of the jump faces. It's more of that like straightforward jumping forward than it is jumping upwards. You see what I'm saying? So that it just doesn't feel like there's as much of that rhythm section complexity and skill gap and difficulty. There's just not as much of that as you had back in like Supercross 3. And with there not being basically any sliding, it pretty much eliminates that whole side of the skill gap, okay? Smitzy Boy telling you exactly what you need to hear, okay? Basically, the moral of the story is, this is just as basic and, you know, quote-unquote boring as any other Supercross game would have been. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you played the first Supercross game and you thought it was pretty boring, or you played the fourth one or the fifth one and you thought it was kind of boring, this is just as much basic and boring, or more so than that. Even when you have all of your settings set to maximum, like, you know, simulation. It's funny how they even, like, use that word, but I'm talking about when you got all the handicap crap turned off, you don't have any, you know, helping settings in the game or anything like that, it still feels like that. It's just got a certain kind of, the game just plays itself for you. There's not a whole lot of thinking involved, like, ooh, can I hit that rhythm? Or, ooh, if I jump off of this really steep jump face, I might crash off of the bike. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't really have that. It's just more so that you're just on the gas everywhere, steering the bike around. You're not really sliding out. You're hitting the jumps perfect every lap without even really trying. You know, basic gameplay. Very, very basic gameplay. The whoops are like they always have been. There's no skill gap. You just hold the gas down. You're going to get through every whoop section perfectly fine. Let's talk about the terrain deformation, bro. Okay. I know there's going to be some other bigger YouTubers out there that are going to act like, oh, the terrain deformation makes Supercross 6 so amazing. And look, it's got terrain deformation. Look at it, bro. Look, look, look. You need to buy Supercross 6 because the deformation is so cool. No. No. If there is any of those other bigger YouTubers telling you that shit, they are bullshitting you, dog. You getting the runaround right now, bro. Let me explain it to you, okay? The deformation in this game is comparable to MXGP 3's terrain deformation. And if you don't remember, that was a Milestone game that came out before they ever even had a Supercross game, okay? So it's about that same kind of level of deformation that you would have had back in MXGP 3, which is not even saying anything, really, you know? But the whole point is, it's not like you can praise Milestone for giving you the kind of terrain deformation that they had like 5 years ago. They're just now finally giving you something that you should have had in the very first Supercross game, bro. So no, it's not impressive. It's not, oh yeah, terrain deformation, woo, Supercross 6, yeah, dude. No, now they're finally to the point where they'll give you some kind of terrain deformation that you can barely feel, okay? This is still not even close to like a reflex kind of terrain deformation or a lot of those other dirt bike games, but when you just compare it to the other Supercross games, then it seems like it's a lot more than what it really is. Do you see what I'm saying? And I don't want you boys to get confused by that, because there's a lot of things like that in Supercross 6 that it's really, honestly, it's too little too late. It's the kind of stuff you should have had way long ago. We're talking way back, bro. We're talking way, way, way back, bro. Guys, be sure and share this video with the people that you know that needs to hear this stuff, okay? This is just the kind of stuff you're not necessarily gonna hear from the other bigger moto YouTubers that get all those views on YouTube. You know, they're getting the game early. They've been getting all the Milestone games early and no telling what else they're getting. They're never really going to tell you not to buy one of the Milestone games. Kind of goes into that, like, you know, if you're a fan of all of them, you're not really a fan of any of them, and you're actually being fake. Okay? So, anyways, with the terrain deformation, it still has a lot of that Milestone type feeling where you're just blowing through the ruts. You know, that's why I say it's comparable to like MXGP 3, because it's that same kind of way, but it's like after you run, you know, 10 plus laps or 15 laps on the track, it'll eventually start to make it where you can physically feel it just a little bit, okay? But it's still nothing to the caliber of like really digging in the ruts. It's still not to that kind of level. You know what I'm saying? It's just not. You're just barely micro kind of sort of feeling the ruts a little bit, but that goes into the pre-made. They're not even ruts on these tracks, so I don't even want to like call it that. They're like pre-made inside berms, okay? Milestone thinks it's still like 2006 MX vs. ATV Untamed or some shit. I don't know what's going on here, but, you know, we're all the way in 2023, and most of the tracks in this game, the spots where they have any kind of, you know, quote-unquote pre-made ruts, it's really just one massive inside berm that feels like you're playing Untamed or something like that, and then it kind of builds that deformation a little bit on that inside berm. But this is still nothing like hitting, you know, 3 or 4 pre-made ruts in the corners like on the custom reflex tracks or something like that, or the, you know, MX Bikes custom tracks, or like MX Sim custom tracks. It's still not that kind of pre-made at all. It's very basic. Very like 2006, 2007 kind of dirt bike gameplay, basic, you know, back in the days before they could make individual, like multiple pre-made ruts in the corner. It's a lot like that right there, you know? And it's like going back to the MXGP3 days of terrain deformation, which I feel like was the best terrain deformation of any of the Milestone games, but that's only because they basically didn't have hardly any in any of the other games. Okay, so you see how it's not really saying much that this game has, you know, some of the best terrain deformation we've ever seen in a Milestone game. Yeah, that's cool, but it's not saying anything, because you should have had it from all of these Supercross games from the very first one. If they were going to have that in MXGP3 before the first Supercross game, then you should have had it in Supercross 1, and they should have been making it better and better and better. You should have had basically to the level of like reflex type terrain deformation at this point had they been doing what they should have been doing from the start of these Supercross games, but they didn't, okay? But it is still heavily visual. It's like what I would say probably is about, you know, 80 to 90% visual, and like 10% you can actually feel it at some point. It's not motocross tracks like you really think motocross tracks. It's completely smoothed off, no pre-made roughness. You're not like hitting roughness and going into the corner. You know, how much of a motocross track really is it when you have zero roughness and basically zero pre-made ruts? And the terrain deformation simply doesn't do enough to create that roughness, you know, multiple ruts that actually grab you in a corner. You know, how much of a motocross track really is it at that point? It's not really one. It's more of a, like a Supercross, a elongated, bigger Supercross track without any ruts and roughness and anything like that. But the quote-unquote ruts in this game are really just one single big inside berm. It's not really ruts. It's not really pre-made ruts. Okay? There's a massive difference between those two different things. All right? So that's some of the bigger things right there with it, man. It's just like, I just can't see this game being worth the price tag of it. Like, if this was a $30 game, I would be a lot more accepting of it. But it's just, I just don't think it's worth it, guys. I really don't. Like, Now, I'm not saying you can't hop in here for a minute and have a little bit of fun, you know, if you're just like a generic dirt bike gaming fan, but at that point, you could have done that same thing in the second and third Supercross game. You could have done that thing back in MXGP 3, you know. It just don't make any sense to keep buying these games over and over and over and over and over and over again, okay? You're kind of just blowing your money in a sense, because it's not like they just improve game to game to game to game with everything. It's more like around the range of they may improve on some things or give you some better features, but then there'll be something else about the game that's even worse than the Supercross game before. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, it's not just this steady progression of the Supercross games just got better and better and better from the first one to the sixth one. It's not like that. No matter how much those other YouTubers try to act like it's like that, it's really not. It's really not. So that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I feel like the tracks, the way they designed the scaling and it's just not where it should have been by the time we got to Supercross 6. All of these jump faces and whoops should have been more peaked out and bigger and more skill gapped. There should have been more pre-made ruts in the corners than just one giant inside berm. You know, the finish line jump shouldn't have felt like weird, you know, super close together backyard doubles that you barely even come off the ground on, okay? Oh, Milestone, you crack me up, bro. T-brake, Smithy boy, got to get the T-brake. Hold on, hold the phone. There we go, damn. What else is there to say? I feel like I've done this like, you know, 69 other times, you know what I mean? Woo. What is there to say, man? I don't know. I really don't know at this point. Like, it's way more of the same stuff and like a little bit of some of those things you should have gotten like 6 Supercross games ago. But, like, I don't feel like when it comes down to the most important thing, the gameplay and the skill gap and the separation, that specific aspect of this game, the gameplay of it, that's the part that I don't really feel like is the best part to the game, you know? I feel like there's other things to it that are better than the actual gameplay, like... You know what I mean? That's just where I'm at on it. I mean, I really don't feel like the gameplay of this game is all that much better than like a Supercross 5. You know what I mean? And I definitely don't think it's better than Supercross 3. I think Supercross 3's gameplay and like the speed of that game and the skill gap and how like the balance between trying not to slide out of a corner but still trying to jump a big jump without crashing off the bike, that was just so much more better balanced and better for like all different skill levels of players than this is right here. This is made a lot more for your casual dirt bike gamer. This is way more of a casual Supercross game right here. I don't know why they chose to go down that road at this point. I really don't know. But, okay, so basically the best way I know how to explain how the gameplay of Supercross 6 feels, it's almost like you have a more simple, easier version of Supercross 5 with better terrain deformation. That's basically what it is. It's like similar gameplay to Supercross 5, but you're not going to slide out as much. It's easier to get over the jumps because they're not as tall. It's just easier across the board, I feel like. It's just more basic Supercross 5 with more terrain deformation. There is only motherfucking 2 of these rhythm attack tracks in this game. There's only 2 of them. There's Withered Valley and Forest Boulevard. But when you're on the menu, it looks like there's like 10 of them that you're scrolling through, but you're actually just repeating your scroll between the same 2 tracks. What are you doing, Milestone? Oh my gosh. Milestone does all these weird little things to try to make it look like there's a lot more content in the game than there really is, and that's just one of the examples of it. Okay? Oh boy. Don't buy this game. At the end of the day, that's all I can really say about it. Don't buy this game. It's not really worth it. You know, if whatever you thought this game was gonna be, you might as well wait until you get Supercross 7 and Supercross 8. I would even wait until you get all the way to Supercross 8 before you decide to go in here and buy it. You know, whatever you were expecting in this game is probably more like what Supercross 8 is actually going to be like. You see what I'm saying? So either way, man, definitely let me know down in the comments what you guys think.